everybody, and welcome to Cup of Kibble. I'm Paula and this is Miss Bella, my 11-year-old Bichon that I've been cooking for most of her life. Today I'm going to do an egg recipe with you, and I don't have my apron on simply because I have this wonderful Barefoot Dreams sweater. It's basically a very warm blanket on me, and if I put my apron on me, I'm going to look really like an elephant because this is full enough. So I don't need to look more overweight than I am. So, hey, before we get started, I haven't done a video in a while. It's been like 3 weeks since I've cooked. And I have to be honest with you, it's been great. I'm getting into my hibernation mode, and I've been reading books and I've been doing crocheting. So it's taken time away from not only cooking, but putting these videos together for you. But what I want to say is it's good because I have food in my freezer. And I've always told you this, that you need to have a supply of food in your freezer so you don't have to always be cooking. And it's going to take you a good 3 weeks if you start to get into having that supply, because you could be sick, you could be having company, I don't know. Maybe you can't go to the grocery store, so you have the food. And this way, I've been able to do other things. So we're gonna get right down to it now, and we're gonna cook some eggs because she gets eggs every morning. So let's do it. So the first thing I did was I got my scale, and actually I shut it off, so now it's not showing, but I put in 10 eggs that came to a pound. Again, it's not showing because I turned my scale off. Now, why do I want to measure my eggs? Because you need to use calcium when you cook food for your dogs. And the back of this says that feeding directions. You give 1 teaspoon per pound of protein. And this is going to be the protein in her food. Now, why do I not give eggshells? Let's make it more like, why do I do animal essentials opposed to eggshells? I know that this is the best quality calcium out there for dogs. The veterinarians and animal hospitals, a lot of them go with this. It comes from the most purest source. I'm not going to do these eggshells because I don't know anything about these eggshells. Are they dirty? What conditions were the eggs in? How about the chickens? I mean, you got to pick and choose what you want. I'm doing eggs. I'm not doing, pasture-raised eggs and all that. You have to pick and choose what you want. But I am not going to do eggshells when I know that the seaweed calcium has the magnesium in it and the phosphorus in it. This does not have it. These are just eggshells. Okay, so let's continue on. So in my pan, I'm going to put some coconut oil. And get that all melted. Here's my little girl right here. You can't really see her right now. I'm doing this video a little bit differently. And then I'm going to get my eggs and I'm going to put it in the pan. And I'm going to cook these eggs up. And while that's cooking, I was going to show you what I'm putting in this recipe. So in this particular recipe, there are 10 eggs. I'm putting broccoli, sardines, blueberries, butternut squash, asparagus, beef liver, and mussels. And we'll talk about these ingredients in a little bit. Okay, we're back. So I'm going to go ahead and add this beautiful tray of food to her recipe. Now, tell me, are you going to get this in kibble? Again, I have fresh broccoli that I microwave steamed. I have mussels. I have blueberries, beef liver, beef hearts. You can't see the asparagus, and butternut squash. So I'm going to dump all this in here, and I'm going to talk about mussels, okay? Now, mussels are really very important for a dog. Believe it or not, mussels and scallops have the highest amount of taurine of any food. But, you know, scallops are expensive. And mussels, you know, maybe it's hard for you to find. So that's why beef is so important for a dog, because taurine is needed for a healthy heart. And all these issues a couple of years ago where dogs were dying of DCM, they think they found the reason was that kibble, people were putting in a lot of legumes into their mix. And there was more legumes than the actual meat, because, you know, the meat it's not really meat that goes into that kibble. And legumes will block the body from producing taurine. Therefore, the dogs were getting heart conditions and dying. So if you can find mussels, I get them in my very, very local grocery store that a lot of people don't like, in the frozen section. And they're just frozen. And I actually called the company up in Maryland to make sure there was nothing else in it. And there is not. So I add mussels into her food. Now I'm going to add mussels and sardines, yes, to the eggs, because mussels and sardines, not only is it good for the taurine, but it's good for the omega-3s, okay, which is very important for a dog, okay, for their skin, their coat, their overall health, brain, everything. And I'm going to balance it out by adding my Cut the Kibble Omega Booster of the pumpkin seeds, the hemp hearts, and the flaxseed. So I have omega-6s and omega-3s. You got to be careful. You want to balance that out. So let's go ahead and do this now. All right, Bella, you ready? Bella loves broccoli, by the way. I'm going to give her a little right now because she did love broccoli, and she my sous chef. So I'm basically just going to dump all this into my food processor. Sorry for being wiggly woggly. Okay. And quite a few people have been asking me about sardines. So before we move forward, I wanted to talk to you about that. So let's get me back on the camera here. Okay. When you buy sardines, okay, first of all, sardines are naturally salty because they swim in salty waters, okay? All fishes have natural salts in it. But what you don't want to do is buy sardines that have added salt. And I've showed you this label so many times, but see, it says unsalted. Can you read that? Unsalted sardines. So when you buy sardines, you want to make sure they're unsalted. It's going to have sodium in it. We'll talk about that in a minute. And you want to make sure that it has the bones and the skin in it, okay? Because those are important dense nutrient ingredients in the food. Now, when you turn it around, and I actually called Trader Joe's up this because I was horrified. For this one, it says for a serving, it has 300 milligrams of sodium. And if you buy some other sardines, I think it's like Wild Planet, it only has 75 milligrams of sodium. And I called Trader Joe's up, who called up their whoever's, and I said, why is your sardine so heavy in sodium when it says unsalted? And they said it's called the salinity, I think it was, of the water, okay? So basically, it depends on the water that the fish is swimming in, and it depends on the season that they catch the fish. And Trader Joe's, they used to do an average of 2 years to figure out how much sodium, and they just spread it out to 3 years, okay? it seems pretty legit to me. Personally, I feel if you buy sardines from Asia, are they doing all this? Plus, I've told you, do not buy any fish from Asia. So you need to balance out, figure out what's more important to you. Is it how much sodium is in it, or it's where it's sourced? And my answer for everything is where it's sourced. And these sardines from Trader Joe's are from Canada. I actually talked to my holistic vet about this to get her opinion, because I had her blood work done, and her sodium level was at 80, which is, it's still in range, but it's at the upper part. And she said she wasn't worried at all about that. She said sardines are very important for a dog's diet. And she agreed, and I'm gonna say it again, consider where it's sourced. So when buying sardines, you wanna buy unsalted, you want it to have bones, you want it to have skin, and you want it to be sourced in places other than Asia, okay? So Canada is, I think, is a great source to get your sardines from. All right, let's get back to this. So, excuse me as I come over here, and I'm going to, you can't really see, can you? I was gonna have my cameraman, my son, come up, but I don't think that's gonna be happening to help me with videos. Okay, so I mixed that up, and now that's full of omega-3s, and now I'm going to add my 1 teaspoon of seaweed calcium from Animal Essentials. I've been using this calcium ever since I started cooking, and I will never be switching. It is the best calcium out there. And then I'm going to be adding, this is a mixture again of the pumpkin seed, hemp hearts, and flax seeds as your omega-6s. And then, excuse me, 1 minute, I'm coming. I have some water here from the broccoli. I'm gonna put that in there. And then I'm gonna add the egg. I also wanted to add that mussels, along with being a good source of omega-3s and taurine, it's also an excellent source for glucosamine and chondroitin. So what does that mean? That means that it builds healthy joints and cartilage, which is especially useful for dogs of all ages. I'm also thinking more of a senior dog, but even for a growing dog, it's very, very important. So try to get mussels into your dog's diet. So this is what the mixture looks like after I put it in to my 14-cup KitchenAid food processor. Now, why do I process this all? Well, it's easier on the dog's digestion, especially if you have a senior dog. But also, more importantly, I want to make sure that that beef heart, the sardines, the mussels, the calcium, and the omega booster is all mixed up so that I'm probably going to get like 10 to 14 meals out of this. I want all that to be evenly distributed. So now I'm ready to measure the food out. And before we go on with that, I want to say I've been using this scale that I got at Amazon. I bought it literally 13 months ago. And one of my last videos, the scale wasn't working. So I went ahead and I bought 2 batteries on Amazon because I don't want to go to the store because of COVID. And I put the batteries in and it still wasn't working. So I actually called up the company that I bought the scale from on Amazon, and they said that the scale has a 5-year warranty, and they sent me a new scale. So I wanted to share that with you because my last recipe that I made, I had to not use the scale, and I didn't feel comfortable with that because she gets 4 ounces twice a day, and I want to make sure that I'm giving her enough and not too much. So let's go on and I'll show you how I measure out my food. So now what I'm going to do, I'm going to get my scale and I'm going to put the 1/2 cup measure on here with the scale off because I don't want the scale to measure the weight of my measure. And then I'm going to turn it on and it's going to go to 0, and I have it on ounces and pounds. And I'm going to go over here to my mixture and put in enough so that it goes to 4.0, because that's how much she gets. And it's 4.1, so now I can be really precise. I'll take a little bit out, and there we go. And then what I do then is I get this, and I'm going to put it in a baggie, just like I have this one. And I'm going to do that for the rest of this. Is that right, Belle? Is that what I'm going to do? So I'm all done, and I wanted to mention it's really important to have a silicone spatula so that you could clean out every last bit in the food processor. So here I have actually 9 4-ounce meals done. And I'm going to open up my freezer, take a deep breath because my freezer is full. And I'm going to put these in my freezer. There we go. And when they get nice and cold, I'm going to go ahead and put it in a big Ziploc bag, and I'm going to mark it. I'll say eggs, today's date, I think today's the 2nd, and I'll put eggs with mussels so I know that I have mussels in it. And that's it. Step by step of how I did making eggs.